Hi guys, and welcome to the midweek show. I hope you are all good. We have the chat on screen now, so a few new elements to the graphics going on. I hope that game week 34 is going well for you so far. It has been interesting for me. I am joined as always by my co-host Mira. How are you doing, lovely?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, no, lovely evening over here in Sydney.
Lovely. Oh, but it's nice and sunny, is it?
Sunny in the evening.
And
no,
well,
the moon's
you know,
out, though.
it's going down.
The moon's out. I've been taking lots of shots of the moon recently, so yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's great. How are you getting on so far in game week 34?
Not too bad. I mean, look, I took a massive hit going into game week 34, and I think we mentioned it last week that there was a likelihood of taking a few hits for the doubles.
Yeah.
And I honestly I couldn't complain. I was expecting a bit of a red arrow, but I wanted to take the hits to set up for the future game weeks as well. We've only got 4 more game weeks left, so it was a matter of doing a little bit of surgery to just get the right players in. But yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm kind of happy with it. I'm on like a 25% red arrow at the moment, which I guess I was expecting. Like I say, I'm sort of okay with where things are at. I think my safety score is like -7 or -6 today. I'm not sure why the Arsenal-Chelsea match sort of dropped it a little bit lower, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was just some people out there who held on to some of the Arsenal assets, and probably your Odegaards, or still had a Saka playing, or a Zinchenko, which is mad because I'm assuming at your rank that it's mostly engaged managers. So yeah, it feels a bit strange that
I have no idea. Yeah, and Martinelli was benched as well, so
yeah,
it could have been probably Saka, probably Odegaard. The likelihood. I mean, you know, they couldn't keep a clean sheet. Is it too soon for me to say that? Sorry.
No, it's fine. We won. We won. I'm fine with that. I didn't load up on any Arsenal defenders anywhere, not even in Sky, because I thought the likelihood was that we would end up conceding.
It was Chelsea. I mean, they scored 1 goal whole of April,
I
so,
know.
and they managed to get another one in. That's great.
Yeah, I think it kind of was around the time where Gabriel was kind of up and down like a yo-yo over a particular, whether he was injured or not. And we were like, just go off if you're injured or stay on if you're not. Like, this is not
Yeah, yeah.
serving anybody, pretty much. You were just effectively causing us problems. And then I think it just, because of the kind of stop, start nature of it, the defense went to
Mm.
sleep a little bit. And yeah, but
Yeah.
the really good thing was that Kyle Hall was really, really good, and it meant that Rob Holding didn't have to play most of the match, which was glorious in my eyes because
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
really
I was
not a
gonna
fan of Rob
say
Holding at
I was
all.
gonna ask you about that. Like, how do you feel about Rob Holding? Tell us how you really feel.
You're going to set me up, but I got there before you. I am not a fan at all. People probably know that from some of my tweets. Yeah, he's not a good defender. He's pretty much just not a good defender. So bless him. Seems like a really nice person, but he is not the level that we need at our club right now. And I think the
Yeah.
fact that Arteta kept him on for as long as what he did, Kaiho that is, and
Mm.
Gabriel, I think suggests that he's not a massive fan of Holding either. And, he's only really been playing him because he's been kind of the only person he could play. So I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him sold this summer. Let's just let's just say that.
Yeah, yeah. So for whatever reason, some of the match today obviously had an impact on my rank, and I try not to look midweek. It's really hard not to because I think like this, when we have a doubled on, the games are stretched out, right? So the week feels a lot longer. And so you tend to sort of look at your FPL app and then try and work out your future game weeks as well, because as you normally would, if all the matches had, finished up by sort of Monday, Tuesday, that sort of thing. So I was trying not to look at my game week too much, especially because we've got a few more games left. But yeah, I think the biggest disappointment was the Brighton mids.
Mm.
That was just hilarious. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that, like all of the I mean, it was 6 goals. And I think I tweeted out saying how happy I was, let's just say, that I saw the 6-0, scoreline. Because for me, the matches are overnight, right? So I
Yeah.
don't get to watch all the matches. And so I woke up the next morning, saw 6-0, and just freaked out because I knew that McAllister wasn't starting and I knew Matoma wasn't starting. I saw that and I was like, you know what, sod this, I'm going to go to bed. I'm not even going to bother staying up for any of this. And so when I woke up, I was like, oh shit, 6-0, it's probably going to be March scoring a hat trick or something like that. So I
Yeah.
was really happy.
Yeah, because you didn't have much.
No, I didn't have. But
Oh, don't.
Estepinian
Yeah,
got
let's
some
not talk
returns.
about
Yeah, he
that.
got a
Oh,
nice sort of 9 point. No, let's
oh.
talk about that. That was great.
I literally that didn't have a Stupinan, like literally he scored and everyone was like, yeah, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
I think my biggest failure in the Stupinan front has been my sheer commitment to the death with Trippier. Because I think
Oh,
if I could have got past benching benching him this week, I think I would have had a Stupinan. But I was just so nervous to bench Trippier that I was like,
yeah.
surely he'll get a clean sheet this week of all weeks. This is the week, or some attack in return. And
Yeah.
I think because he's been my kind of day one player and he's been with me all season, I find it very hard to kind of let go of him or to bench him. So
Mm.
he did cloud my judgment a little bit. I'm lucky that in a way I had that last minute, I say lucky, I mean, we're only halfway through. Let's wait and see what happens the second match. I mean, Steele might get a
Yeah.
rest, but at least it helped a little bit that I went for Steele so that I had, some some of those points that the Stupinan owner's got.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I
I
think
think
it would have been way more of a hurt.
Yeah, I think it is really tricky, isn't it? Because a lot of people have, double Newcastle defense. Like I've got Botman and I've got Trippier, and I
Would be
played
Botman as
Trippier,
well, wouldn't it? That got the
and that's what I
assist.
mean. And Botman got returns, but I think naturally everyone put Botman if they had both. They put Botman on the bench, right? And
Hmm.
someone like me, I played Trippier, I played Estupinian, and then I played Trent as well. So that every day, like against the lineup that we had, that we have this game week, I would have played those three. So there's just no way I would have
Mm.
played. Although, look, in hindsight, maybe I would have played Gabriel, and then
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe Arsenal would have kept a clean sheet, and that would have probably prompted
Mira,
me to
it's all your
not.
fault.
But when you have double Newcastle defense, right?
Yeah,
Like what are you supposed to do?
what
And
are
I
we
think
supposed to do? And this is the problem
I
going
was
forward now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I was actually going to check like the effective ownership, at least sort of around my rank, with Trippier, and he's owned 88% around my rank.
Yeah,
So it's insane for me
it
to,
is.
but I guess, how much do you look at that as well?
Mm, yeah,
Mm.
agreed. Oh, Bateman said, "Don't sit on the fence, Nim, about holding. Say what you really think."
Yeah, don't hold back about
Don't hold,
holding.
don't hold back. Cool. Okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
head on to our teams going forward then. And Mira, if you'd like to talk us about your game week 35 team at the moment, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so game week 35, like at the moment, I can't get the current game week out of my head, And a lot of I guess a lot of my decisions are going to be based on how the City match goes tomorrow or tonight for you guys, tomorrow
Yeah.
for me.
Hmm.
Um yeah, it's going to come down to the City match, I think, like with how, like, is KDB going to start? I've got like KDB on my mind, I've got Alvarez on my mind. So yeah, I'm not too sure, entirely what I'm going to be doing. But at the moment, I'm probably about 60%, 70% on rolling my transfer because, as you know, we've got a double game week going into game week 36 after 35. So yeah, and there's doubles there. So yeah, I think I'd rather have two for 36 than sort of go in with one and just make a random move for 35. But having said that, I wouldn't mind making a random move as
Mm.
well. So I think I've got something like 3.3 mil left in the bank as well. So I could go Grealish to Bruno, for example, and go Bruno a little bit early and still be able to hold Salah, as well as, still having that kind of Newcastle attack cover that I think a lot of people are thinking about sort of bringing in now. Wilson's been hauling back-to-back sort of braces and just kind of doing really well. So, there is a tendency at the moment, especially in I don't know, I think the Twitter community seems to be sort of like all about trying to get Isaac and Wilson in. And I've already got Isaac, so I'm glad that he got some returns for me this game week. And he's probably going to be a hold right up until 36, if not sort of a little bit beyond as well. As you can see, I've got Greenwood on the bench, and so yeah. So with the 3.3, I could bring in an Alvarez if we get some early news on City, see what's going on there. He'd be a really good punt to take. As we saw, he's already returned this game week, and the likelihood of him playing tomorrow, who knows, right? Like if KDB doesn't play, then he might get another game in, right? So yeah, let's see. But of course, there is the UCL match as well. So a lot is resting on the City match, I feel.
Hmm.
See how that goes. But if there is a move that I would probably make, it will probably be Grealish to Bruno. We know, West Ham's defense is not that great, and they're generally not, doing too great. Sorry, West Ham fans in the chat, if there's anyone there. But yeah, Bruno's been returning, and he looks really good, in the first match. So yeah, I wouldn't mind going early on that. I mean, that would be really beneficial for game week 37 anyway. So yeah, at the moment, I'm either 70% rolling my transfer, or I'm bringing in a Bruno, or taking a bit of a punt on Alvarez. For
Mhm.
me to bring in Wilson, I would have to take Botman out. And so it probably wouldn't be 35 at all. I mean, Newcastle's playing Arsenal, as you know. So yeah, that would probably be a roll and maybe a move for 36, possibly. But yeah, that's where my head's at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair enough. For those those members in the chat, you get to use the Wilson the the Wilson graphic in your chat. So yes, I have that because I've just moved on to my team, and he is exactly who I'm thinking about bringing in this week. Even though I hear you on the two moves and it not being optimal necessarily to bring him in this week.
No.
But hear me out. I think
Arsenal leaky defense.
yes, leaky defense. You know me too well. You know me too well. Yeah. So I actually really like the double Newcastle attack for the next, well, probably until the end of the season, right? I hear what you're saying
Mm.
about Bruno. I could probably do something similar there. So my only thought is that I think I'll want Grealish for the double. So I mean, it's moving one double game week player on for another double game
Mm.
week player, and West Ham hopefully will do well against City, but also I'm hoping they will do well at home against United. So that's why I think I'm maybe stepping back a little from Bruno. I did hear as well that his goal might have been a little bit lucky on the weekend. It kind of came off of the it was kind of squeezed in, came off the post and in,
Mm.
rather than a kind of really good, strong, goal from him. It's not to say I don't think he's a good option. I do, and I have considered him myself, but I think I'm more towards making a forward move this week, which seems nuts after Wolves just got completely pulverised by Brighton. You'd think I'd just play Ollie Watkins, right? And to be
Yeah, I
honest,
think
that is
I think that's a good shout.
that is something in my thoughts. Ideally, we're going to wait for that City news, as we're hoping it'll come early enough where the site doesn't crash. But I suspect there's going to be a lot of people waiting for that City news this week, so there's potential that there could be a site crash, I suppose. But if I heard that Grealish wasn't playing, I think if he was rested, I would be torn between just starting Ollie and rolling like yourself, so I'm kind
Mm.
of 60-70%. Or if I heard that Alvarez was starting, I feel like
Mm.
I could potentially be edged towards a punt to playing to play it. So getting Alvarez in for Watkins and playing him. That said,
Okay.
with Big Sam now, I'm hoping Leeds will be a little bit kind of stronger at the back. I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to do that within within seconds of being there, but he might be able to do that. New manager bounce. Might I just be delaying the inevitable here? Might I just shift Botman on for a double game week player, right? So I know Botman's a double game week player anyway, but if I go for, let's see how City do tonight, but say I go for a City defender that covers, I've got all the big defenses then, so to speak. So if I go for a City defender, I've covered Shaw, so I've got United, I've covered Newcastle, I've
Yeah.
got Brighton, and I've got Liverpool. So I've got all the defences that everyone else has got. So I've got that covered. I know I have them for the double. Hopefully all being well the week after. Although going for a City defender does make that more difficult because you just never know.
Mm. Mm.
But then I can get Wilson in, and if I hear that Grealish isn't starting, it's an easy start for the 2 Newcastle forwards, which seems insane against Arsenal, I know, but it's at home. It's Newcastle at home, and they have been brilliant at home, and Arsenal have been leaky in defence, and we do have some injuries, especially if Gabriel is out with an injury.
Yeah.
That means Rob Holding's going to play, and I'm sorry. That means there's going to be at least 2 goals against Arsenal.
So does that mean you would, if you were to take Botman out and bring Wilson in, you'd be taking a hit for that, right?
I would be taking the -4, but I am then hoping that I don't need to make any moves, going for the double, because I've got 2 Newcastle with their double. I've got Haaland, I've got Grealish, I've got the Brighton lads. I'll have, if I do it, I will definitely move Botman on for a double game week player. So it will be, I would like to think the double is covered. So I don't, whilst I'm taking the hit now, it's just, I hopefully won't need to use those transfers. Maybe it's a week too early, as you say. There is always the potential to maybe do the bounce along. So if we hear Grealish isn't starting, but we hear Alvarez is, maybe we go Watkins to Alvarez this week. So Alvarez this week, and then on to, then to Wilson the week after. So,
it feels really strange to be taking out Watkins against Wolves.
I know it does. But he hasn't been great recently. That's the problem.
No, but could this be the game?
Could this
right?
be the
It just seems like a good.
He'd be a differential now. He'd be a differential now. My only concern is that it's not at home. It is away. I'd have to check Watkins' stats away compared to his home form. Right?
But then Wolves are not doing well at all at the moment. So
they're
maybe
really
they'll tighten up.
streaky, aren't they? They're really streaky. Some matches they're letting in ridiculous amount of goals, and other matches they're doing all right. They're winning. So it's so odd. It's so hard to know what to do, because basically when we all look at our teams this week, most of us will be looking at it going, well, I don't really need to do anything. As you say, and that's where the 60 kind of 70% kind of comes in.
I agree. And I was just looking at the chat, and Mohan has said how look, Newcastle forwards will be sharing their minutes in 36, which is very likely, right? Like if you think about it, Wilson's been coming on like half time. He's been coming on 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, that kind of thing. And so for a double, do we see him playing more than about 30 minutes, 40 minutes for each of them? Which, look, he's scored a brace really quickly as well. So there is a risk there. And I think if you're going to take a hit, like taking a hit sort of back to back as well, I'd be a little bit hesitant doing that personally, just because, it is risky going a little bit earlier now. If I was rolling and then making those 2 transfers for 36, it makes perfect sense. And then holding Watkins for, the Wolves match, which again seems like a missed opportunity given how crap Wolves have been.
Yeah, PSB does say that Watkins away is better at home, but then Bateman does say Watkins had 0.00 XG against Man United. So
but we comparing
the pluses
Wolves
and
against Man United.
Pluses and minuses there.
That's suggesting that United's defense is on par with Wolves.
Yeah, I know. It's not. But, it's that sort of thing where I always feel like these last few matches at the end of the season can always throw up some interesting results that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So you would expect Villa to win there, just as you'd expect Arsenal potentially to nick it at Newcastle, but I could maybe see it going the other way personally for both of those.
Well, Wolves are not in relegation zone, right? So I think that's the critical factor as well to consider.
Yeah,
that there's a bunch of teams at the bottom of the table who are fighting, right? And so Wolves are sort of, I don't know where they are at the moment, but I think they're sort of bottom half of the table, but not in the relegation zone at all. So yeah, I think they're just cruising now for the next couple of game weeks.
Yeah. And they still want to put on a show for their fans, though, right? They're not just going to show up and be like,
Oh, but every
"Oh,
team does, right?
I'm
Every
not.
team does.
We're just gonna kind of like just hang out here and let Watkins score a hat trick. Why not?"
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think any team goes into a match thinking, "Oh yeah, we're not going to put on a show for our fans."
Yeah.
But it's the probability game, right?
And then I guess there is the issue of the Brighton lads. So whether or not they start again tonight, how well they do, could they be, could they be a potential benching, which, would allow maybe for your move more so than mine because yours would be in midfield, whereas obviously for
Yeah.
me to get Wilson or Alvarez, I'd have to sell Watkins. So yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm okay with my Brighton players though, because I mean, yeah, they're playing tomorrow, right? They're playing.
yep.
I think it's City, Liverpool playing tonight. But no, I'm okay with my Brighton mids. I mean, I've got Matoma, which is, I mean, he's owned by everyone, it feels like. But I've got McAllister, who is my differential. And I'm at that point where even if he gets like 3 points or 2 points, he's still a differential for me. And so it's actually giving me a fair few points as well, like, in terms of rank gain. So I'm happy with that. Let's see what happens. I mean, I can't do anything about it this game week, but yeah, I mean, Brighton don't necessarily have the easiest doubles coming up either. So I think their 37 double is a little bit better than their 36 one.
Yeah.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 36 they're playing Newcastle and City, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Off the top of my head.
I think it's something like that. Newcastle and City. I can't actually. Yeah, no, Arsenal and Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's not necessarily, although both have been leaking goals, and Brighton have been on fire. But what we've seen with Brighton is that they're rotating, right? So their rotation game is pretty strong. It's sort of becoming a Zerbi roulette as well. So yeah,
Who
not
won't
sure
be
what to
there
expect there.
potentially tonight, coincidentally, or tomorrow. Well, his press conference has been cancelled because he's unwell, so he may not make tomorrow's match. I guess we'll see. But
Yeah.
should be interesting. All I'm kind of hearing here is worry for Arsenal. I mean, Newcastle are really good, Brighton are really good. It's not looking
Well,
good for us. We need
it's
City to drop points. Come on, West Ham.
yeah. Well, they're away matches for Brighton as well, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think if anyone's thinking about removing or bringing in Brighton players, if you have them, don't remove them. If you don't have them, maybe bring them in on the off chance that,
Maybe I should just bring Well back in, I don't have that. I don't have, I could just shift out Matoma, a bit of a differential, get the old Welbs in, why not?
yeah, if you're feeling that, if that's although Undav and Ciso has
So
been
much
playing really well as
rotation.
well.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty much. The problem is we're running out of game weeks now, right? So
Yeah,
to an
exactly.
extent, you kind of have to hold what you have, and then maybe take a couple of punts around it. If you are new to the channel and you don't subscribe, please do. There are 25 watching now. Thank you so much. Drop a like and share if you can. That'd be amazing. Myself and Mira do try to aim to do one of these every week around this sort of time. Cool. Right, let's move on to the Q&As. We have quite a lot on Twitter, so we'll start there. So guys, if you have any questions, do pop them in the chat for us. And we will start with Bateman, our regular. Isaac or Wilson for double game week 36 or both. So kind of talked a little bit about that, Mira. What are you thinking? Are you more of an Alvarez for 36 or leaning more towards the double up with Wilson and Isaac?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you've got the transfers and you don't have any other sort of urgent things to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
why not go Alvarez, go to Wilson, and then go back to Alvarez if you wanted to, if you could?
Ooh, nice. I guess it depends, Bateman, if you've got that third Newcastle player already. So whether you're thinking about the hit like I am, or whether
Yeah,
it's because I guess there is the opportunity this week if I don't if I if I hear Grealish is starting, for instance, and I just sit on my hands a little bit instead of rolling the transfer, could almost sell Botman in advance. It's a little risky, right? Because if you do that, then if Wilson was to get injured, for instance, then you've kind of sold one of your double game
yeah.
week players. But I guess I'd be hoping that I'd be buying a double game week player anyway. So I think
Mm,
if City keep a clean sheet tonight, I guess I may make one transfer this week and make Botman a City defender,
mm.
which would, if I bring up my team here, would allow me to play that City player over a Trippier this
Yeah,
week, which
yeah.
should be a nicer fixture,
So I
obviously.
guess, Bateman, if you're thinking about both, if you want both, if you can get both, because there'll be rotation in 36, and they've actually got a decent number of fixtures. You may want to even hold them right till the end if you can, sort of, if you can manage that.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with just holding Isak as well. Like he's playing really well through the center. Yeah, he missed maybe a couple of chances in the first in this game week. There could have been another assist as well. I think he was playing off to the left. He's still playing really well from over there. I really don't think it's a problem just having the one.
Hmm.
Just depends on the urgent things that are going on in your team.
Yeah. And it's that thing is like, can I sell Trippier? Can I sell him or can I bench him? I'm not sure that I can.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my kind of personal hell right there, is just knowing what to do with Trippier. So
That's going to play on your mind for the
uh,
next couple of days, isn't it?
it is all going to be about Trippier. And I even sent him a tweet. I was like, dude, step up. Everyone else is. Charles assisting, Botman's assisting. Where are you? And he'll
Yeah,
wait. He'll wait until I bench him. You watch. Wait until I bench or
yeah.
sell him, and then he'll go
That's exactly
absolutely
what's going to
insane.
happen.
Exactly
Yeah.
what's going to happen. Oh, that's nice, Nuclear. Thank you. He says I should be on more subs. I've seen newer channels get more subs. Oh. Yeah, it's hard. It's a tough life being a YouTuber. Okay, cool. Vardy Boy says, if you don't own Trippier, would you bring him back in game week 36 or ignore him and have another
Do you want to go first, Nim?
Oh, yeah. So, Trippier, I'm not sure he's worth the money. I'm not sure it would be worth bringing him back at the moment. Okay, right. FPL hat back on. I think if you're happy with your rank, you should buy Trippier back in to kind of, because he's so highly owned, right, Mez? So I think. Oh, but then
So
go
what, though?
Wilson or Isaac.
No, but so what?
Mm.
So what? Like, you know, let's
I was
think about
thinking
that,
it's a
right?
shield pick. Like, if you go Trippier, you're
But how
going for
many
a
shield
shield,
picks do you need?
right?
How many shield picks do you need
Yeah, I
towards the end
think
of
at this,
the
yeah,
the season, right? There's
yeah.
like, I'll tell you now, my team is about 90% template. Like, why? I have 90% shield picks is what that basically means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a great point. It's a great point.
We've got 4 game weeks left.
I would. Okay,
I would just avoid
I'm gonna
and
stick a pin
counter
in
with
it.
another player.
Yeah, stick a pin in it. I would go Wilson and Isaac. I think at this point,
Yeah,
definitely.
for
Yeah,
sure.
have a bit of fun with it.
If
Why
you
not?
haven't, if you've taken Trippier out, there was a reason why you took Trippier out,
Hmm.
and so unless it's hurting you, which, come on, 2 pointers, is that really hurting you?
Yeah.
Having said that, he's probably gonna he's probably gonna do really well against
That's
Arsenal
it,
now.
isn't it? Yeah, I know. Like,
But realistically, that was a move out, whether that was on wildcard or, just a transfer. That was a transfer out and then a transfer in, which
yeah.
I'm not saying, don't be obviously don't be stubborn about it if you want to bring, if you want to bring Trippier back in, but why not counter it with another player that is probably going to give you some returns and be a differential?
Hmm. Absolutely. That's my thing. You see, as is playing Arsenal as well. So it's not like I'm just benching him against any old team. It would be that I would bench him and then you do. I think I just have to play him
I
just
love
so that Arsenal stand a
I love
chance.
I love how you keep coming back to your team and Trippier, not the questions. We're not
Okay,
talking about your team.
we're moving on. We're moving on. Okay. FPL Veteran says, is it time to move to back three for the remainder of the season? Huge lack of clean sheets. I mean, this is an
Short answer.
interesting question, I think, because, yeah, initially you'd think yes. At the same time, it's very tough when you look at the fixtures ahead and how many doublers people already have in their team. It's fitting those. A lot will already have maybe 4 doublers in defence, if you see
Who
what I
comes to
mean.
mind?
So, like, for 36, for instance, you're going to have Botman, you're going to have Trippier, you're going to have Trent, and you're going to have Shaw, right? Well, no, Trent doesn't double, does he, in 36? No. But then, do you really want to bench Trent against Leicester?
Well, so United don't double either. United double in 37.
No, but they have a nice fixture as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they have a nice fixture, but I'm saying,
They have
4
Wolves,
versus
of which
3.
you've just told me to play Watkins against. So yeah, it's tough. It's
No,
tough.
United have Wolves. Watkins doesn't have Wolves. Watkins has got Wolves in 35.
Yeah,
We're talking about 36.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, we play Watkins against Wolves this week. Does that not make it a good shout to play Shaw against Wolves at home in game week 36?
Yeah, but there's a couple of other it depends who you have, right? So I'm not saying don't play Shaw. Obviously, you'd play Shaw if you've got Shaw, home to Wolves. But I'm just trying to work out who would be the 4 defenders that you would have playing in 36. You'd probably play. Would you want to play double? Yeah, you'd probably play double Newcastle, right?
Yeah, you'd play double Newcastle because they got the double, and then I've got Shaw and Trent who both have really tasty fixtures. So to drop one of those, I think it does make the decision tough. But then, I think the short answer, as you say, is yes for 3 players. But I don't think it's quite as simple because it very much depends on your team. For me, I've got 4 defenders there that I'd happily play in 36. So
yeah, but I guess the question is the remainder of the season, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably worth saying that you want to have at least 4 playable defenders till the end of the season.
Agreed.
But actually only playing 3 for the 3 matches out of the 4 might be okay.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. Okay, Kieran says, does Allardyce appointment after alter anything at Leeds? Are they still the defence to be targeted? So, I mean, I think the quick answer there is we're just unsure, right? So we haven't seen them play yet. He could come in, he could put out a block, and they could straight away be better defensively, or they could just be Leeds in defence and still be exactly the same as what they've been. So I think that one's almost too early to answer, personally.
Yeah, I would imagine that, I think typically when you get like teams just letting in so many goals, right? A new manager typically sort of tightens up the defense. I think that's the one thing that we can kind of predict, that that's what Sam will try and do, but will they actually be able to do it? Not sure. You know what? It wasn't that long ago when we were trying to bring like Rodrigo into the team, and it's so weird, and
Mm.
Nyonto as well,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's
Nonto.
so strange
Yeah.
how things have sort of shifted. But I think defensively Leeds have been pretty poor, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's hard to know, like you say.
Yeah, agreed. Sussex says goalkeepers who to have in the final few game weeks. Now we we had a bit of discussion about this on the weekend, didn't we? Because I was umming and ahhing over a couple of
Mm,
double game week goalkeepers to go
yeah,
ahead with, and I settled on Steele because I didn't have the third Brighton player, but I actually really like the look of De Gea, which I know you have, Mez,
mm,
just because I really like United's fixtures until the end of the season, and they do have another double, so
yeah,
I think at this point, even though Kepa has the double, Chelsea have been pretty bad in defence, and that double isn't particularly nice either. I did keep hold of Kepa in
yeah.
the kind of thought process, I think, as we discussed, that it's a backup should Sanchez take Steele's place, for instance.
Mm,
I would still have a double goalkeeper for 37. Kepa having City and United. Obviously, I will do everything in my power not to have to play him there if I can help it. But
yeah.
I think it was just nice having that backup just in case with Steele. Um, I think it's probably between those two for me for the rest of the season, personally.
Yeah, I think so. I think like a lot of managers will probably have they still have Steele. I think, like for the previous doubles, and he's played really well, right? So if
Hmm.
you've got Steele already, you're probably not going to shift off of Steele, given despite sort of the slightly trickier doubles that are coming up, you're probably not going to, shift off of there. I was having a quick look actually when that question came through. I was having a quick look at the total goals. I'm sorry, total expected points for the rest of the season, and I think it seems like Steele's right at the top there with like 21.2. So I'm using FPL Review, to have a look at the points there. But Steele's right at the top with 21.2, and then you've got Edison with 19.8, and you got De Gea with 18.9, and then you got Pope under there, 17.9. Kepa's a little bit, obviously Kepa, we can't really. I'm not sure how seriously to take the Chelsea ones at the moment.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's reflective of their poor form. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. But yeah, just using FPL Review, it seems like Steele, Edison, and De Gea are probably the top three based on expected points over the next four.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously there's like doubles in there for Steele and for De Gea and for Edison. And Steele's got the double still left.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the extra fixture, isn't it? And as you say, I mean, it may be that you already have through Brighton, so that you can't really go there, in which case I think you're probably down
Yeah.
to De Gea and Edison. I'd like to get Mira's advice on Edison.
So I've held at Edison in the past, and he was rubbish, and I sort of decided, no, I'm not going to keep him. Got rid of him, wouldn't go back personally.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think in the City match this week, right? Like City conceded one goal, but I think there was only like one shot against City as well. There was only, and that was the goal. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with City. It was awful. They're just letting in that sort of last minute goal. I mean, this time round it was a little bit earlier. So thanks for that. We didn't have to wait until like I don't know 80 minutes before there was a goal conceded. But it's really frustrating to have an Edison in goal, unfortunately. So yeah, it's up to you. I think it's a tricky one, because if you don't want to go for City attackers, which I think most people may want to lean towards if they haven't already gone Edison, I think Alvarez becoming a pick, and
Hmm.
potential sort of rotation with UCL as well. City's got big
Foden
matches
might
coming up.
even come into our thought process a
Exactly.
little bit as well. Obviously, we need
Yeah,
to
I
see
think just
what's happening with
attack.
KDB as well. So,
I think
yeah.
attack in general. So if you haven't got Stones and you haven't got Edison, you probably want to bring in, triple attack anyway.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
tricky
and I
one.
mean, it's difficult with the single game week players because even Raya, who's at the top of the list, I mean, he's got Liverpool, West Ham, Spurs, and Man City left. So, I mean, you can see potential for points, for save points there,
Mm,
but then you got to kind of offset that with potential clean sheets. Uh, yeah, Sa is up there as well, but he obviously got the -1 against Brighton. Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard to know looking at his picture. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
most people are only going to have one or two United already. So for me, it feels like De Gea would be the
Yeah.
punt if you're already tripled up on Steele and two double Brighton mids,
I think
or
given
a
their
Stupinan and
fixtures,
two Brighton mids.
you could double up on United.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
but I think, even still, if you don't have
Yeah,
a Brighton defender and you've only got those two mids still, and you're contemplating which other forwards to bring in or which other mids to bring in, given, their own rotation as well, then bringing in Steele is not a bad shout. I mean, yeah, there is the risk of Sanchez, and it's very likely that they'll probably rotate there as well, just because towards the end of the season they'll probably bring, De Zerbi might bring Sanchez back in. Who knows, right? Like, I think that's a
yeah.
risk.
Yeah, agreed. Keith says, how much hits can I take to get back on top 100k and have template green arrow? Well, I don't think there seems to be
Oh,
much of a template green arrow this week at the moment so far. So I'm not sure even if you took a hit for all of the template, you'd get one.
yeah, that's
Because yeah,
it's a tricky question, isn't it? Because I've been hit, sort of averse this season. I think I might have mentioned previously, I took something like 46 hits last season, which is ridiculous. And that landed me 190k or so. And this time round, I've taken 8 hits. And so it's dramatically less.
different. Yeah.
But I don't think that there is a sort of fixed number of hits that you should take or shouldn't take, right, to get a good season,
Hmm.
or to get a good, overall rank by the end of the season as well. I think it really comes down to who are you bringing in and who are you taking out, actually. So just a conversation we were having with your team, Nim, with Watkins, right? If you take out Watkins and bring in Alvarez or, someone else, what if Watkins goes off, right? So it's actually taking out a good player for another good player, which might be okay, but taking out a good player with a potential sort of, punt pick, that's a tricky one, because you're taking out a good player at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always tough at this end of the season to know like where to fall on your hits and how risky to be, because you don't have long left. You are talking to somebody here who took a -16 with, I think, 2 game weeks to go last season.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I did.
How did it go for
It
you
paid
though?
off.
Did it
It
work?
did pay off.
Yeah,
Yeah. I got 2 green arrows in a row, and it worked out.
that's great.
It worked out really well, and it was just sheer gut picks though, rather than I just wasn't happy at my rank, really wanted to go for it, was missing a couple of really good key players, and it just happened to fall. But as what I will say is that it doesn't always. I got lucky. I think I did get a bit
Mm,
lucky, because I think I got Jesus in and he got a brace, and yeah, there was a few really lucky punts that I went for.
yeah,
So I do feel like if you're missing some key players and you know that they could really wipe the floor with you, then don't dislike you getting them in for a hit, but I don't think it should be for all key players, because like Mira says, how can you gain ground then? You can't. So it's if you're like, at this point, if you're like sat outside 1 million or something, like, it's go for it, isn't it? Just have a bit of punt and go for it, because I'm not really sure it makes many difference at that rank whether you take a -4 or you take a -16, but then I don't know how many engaged managers here would be ruffling around that sort of rank anyway, so just be conservative with it. And
Yeah.
I think it's only really if you really think the player you're getting in is going to score more points than the player you're shifting out. And that's
Yeah.
really how to think about it. We've kind of covered the best goalies and defenders there for Sanjay, so we won't go over that one. Mark says, is it too late to shift around Brighton players like Gary Mack? So you've got McAllister, right, Mira? I've got March and Matoma. So for me, I'm pretty happy with those two, though, with March starting last week. I'm not sure if that means he's due a rest, midweek this week. But I think we'd both probably say it's not really worth it at this point.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't.
No.
I think unless you can, unless you've got luxury moves to make and you feel good about the one that you're bringing in. So if you've got Mac and you're not feeling good about that and you want to bring in, March, for instance, I think Brighton's going to probably field their best team against the tougher doubles that they've got. So there'll be a little bit of rotation, I reckon, but yeah, it's probably going to be more a case of, your triple M's probably playing 60 minutes, 70 minutes, that kind of thing, and then sort of getting a sub, and then some of the newer guys that are sort of hitting the radar now, they'll probably get some more of that time as well. But I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that if you have that luxury move to make, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, I think, as you say, we're just so close to the end of the season now. We've almost made our bed to some extent. So unless, like Mira says, unless you have the luxury moves, I'd probably just stick. So Risk Taker says, following is my team. Watch transfers do you suggest in case KDB is still doubtful for 35, keeping in view for future double game weeks? So not sure if you can see the team, but those who can't, it's De Gea, Shaw, Trent, Stupinan, De Bruyne, Salah, Grealish, Rashford, Matoma, Haaland, Welbeck, hey, nice, Everson, Soufal, Bueno, and Greenwood. So I think you need to find out about De Bruyne, right? That team looks so good on paper. I feel for you on the De Bruyne front. I really do. Maybe he'll be back though, right? So it might just be that Pep will rest him potentially tonight, and that he'll be good to go on the weekend. If he's not, I would sell. I don't know if Mira agrees, but I don't see the point in holding De Bruyne at this point in the season with the fixtures that City have and the price he's at. It's a midfield spot that I just think you could be utilising elsewhere. You could go for a Bruno, like Mez is considering, for that extra fixture. Or you could generally, maybe you could look, if De Bruyne is out, I don't know if maybe you'd want to take the money out of Bruno and maybe go for Alvarez up front and go for your 3 City attackers that way. Or maybe see if Foden or Mahrez gets another start tonight, and then they could maybe be a shout for that spot. But if you're not hearing any rumblings, Risk Taker, by the weekend that De Bruyne is back, then for me he's a move on, and he would be my transfer out for future double game weeks. Mez?
Yeah, I kind of agree and disagree.
Yeah.
I think that, yes, KDB is potentially injured at the moment, or not, not sort of full fitness. Not necessarily injured as such, just not sort of, firing all cylinders. But he'll probably need to get some minutes in before the UCL match, right? So yeah, I reckon he'll probably, if he doesn't play tonight, he'll probably play in the Leeds match, and that's a really easy one at home. So might just kind of come on, play, I don't know, play some time. If not, then yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of Everton, probably get rested against Everton. But the Chelsea Brighton matches in 37, that's where I'd probably want a KDB. That's probably where I'd probably be thinking about, do I need Salah for 37, and do I drop Salah down to a KDB or a Bruno if I haven't already bought Bruno in earlier?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a tricky one, because I imagine KDB will play against Brighton and Chelsea.
Yeah.
For that fixture, which is a little bit further away. So it is, there's still time in between. But it's risky. Like you say, it's risky having sort of, a 12 mil player sitting on your bench potentially.
Yeah, completely agree. Cool. Just to give some shout outs to people in the chat, we've got Nuclear, we've got Geddy, we've got Mahoon. I hope I'm saying that right. He says that Kane is still a good option for the next 4 weeks. I mean, we haven't even talked about Kane, and he's still tucking them away. John's in, PSB's in, Adia's in. Yeah, we've got some cool regulars in. Bateman, obviously, and Chris. So thanks all for getting in touch. Ian's just asked keep or sell KDB. So we've kind of covered that one, so I help. Ooh, KDB to Sun. That's a nice shout, Ali, but I think it's just that Sonny has the single game weeks, because I'd say go back to an Arsenal midfielder personally. If you were considering selling De Bruyne, I mean, if it wasn't for the doubles, I'd be loaded up on City and Arsenal, because they're both fighting for the titles. So, they both have to score goals.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's why I think KDB could be a good hold, because if for whatever reason it becomes a lot tighter, then Pep's going to play his sort of full strength team.
Yeah.
Although he's got such a deep, he's got a really a huge squad there. So yeah, it could be anything really, unfortunately. But you're right. Like Arsenal have got, I think in 37 they've got Forest. Arsenal's actually got 2 tough fixtures at the moment. So they've got Newcastle next, and then they've got Brighton in 36. So you maybe want to have at least one. But given there's like doubles in 36 and 37, it's really tricky, isn't it?
That's the tough bit. That is the tough bit, personally.
And you could have another situation like today where Martinelli got benched.
Yeah.
And, which one's going to fire?
I think that was more of a rest situation for Martinelli. Maybe to try something a bit different with Xhaka out wide and feeding into Trossard and Jesus, and it worked really well. I think it was like a little bit of a rest for Martinelli, and B, I think it was just to satisfy Arteta's curiosity if that situation could be a situation going forward.
I mean, the last 2 fixtures are good.
Looked tired last night, but I don't know if he can afford to rest Saka until the end of the season. I just don't think he can. So
I think the next 2 fixtures for Arsenal are going to be tough, right? They've got Newcastle and Brighton, so it's just really the last 2.
Yeah, agreed. Just whether we get them back in for those last two. Okay, Joa says, questioned him, do you pluck the eyes out of people looking to you for sound FPL advice? And basically only asking because he just can't be bothered with the others. No, I don't. I think if I'm reading the question correctly, I don't think I'd do a Q&A stream if I minded, people asking for FPL advice. So I enjoy it. I find that I can be more objective when looking at other people's teams than I can be looking at my own, which is why it's nice having a couple, I think, of one-on-one people like Mez, for instance, that I can chat to when I'm struggling is nice, because it just sometimes it's nice to have that, that back and forth with somebody. Because objectively it's so hard. You can put a lot of pressure on yourself to do it right, really, with everybody watching you. So I don't mind it. I'm pretty sure Mez wouldn't be here if she minded it either.
Yeah, I think if anything, some of the like this week, the questions have been really good,
Yeah.
and they were last week as well. And I think this is the first time we're trying out doing a bit more Q&A. I think when we were doing our late night sort of streams a couple of weeks ago, there were a lot of questions that were coming through, but we didn't really prioritize the questions, and so it's quite nice to see the different questions coming through now, and it gives us an opportunity to sort of really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So we just had one more question for me. It said, being a Forest fan, when we play Arsenal, I'm hoping they rest a few. Forest are really good at home. Also, which teams do you think will get relegated? So I'm hoping that nobody's getting rested, Ian, because if that's the case, then it means the title is over. So I think he'll only rest against Forest if the title race is over. He may put some of the kids out and get a look at some formations for next season. But otherwise, I'm hoping it's strong all the way until the end of the season now. Who do we think will get relegated, Mez? Oof. Now that is a question. Let's see.
It's
Where's
so
the
tight,
table?
isn't it? It's like Leicester, Leeds and Forest on 30 points. And then you got Everton, and I think Southampton's going to definitely get relegated, right? They've got to win like every single match left, which might be a bit of a challenge, given that they've lost the last 8, 9, 10, all of them.
Not Arsenal though. Not Arsenal though.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
If only we'd
reckon,
won any one of those games that we drew, we'd be in a much better position now. But there we are.
I reckon Leeds. Leeds, Southampton, and Everton.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout.
Everton's been on the brink for a long time. But there was a question in the chat earlier as well around the teams. I can't remember who it was. I apologize. I think there was a question around out of the teams that are in the relegation zone, are there any punty picks or any sort of picks that we would consider?
Yeah. Well, Solanke seems to be, he's not in relegation, but Solanke seems to just be ticking away every week, doesn't he? He's like a thorn in the side, that guy.
Yeah.
I think if there wasn't so many doubles and stuff around, we'd all have a bit of Solanke in our teams at the moment, which you wouldn't even really, if you were looking at the table, you wouldn't even be looking there with them sitting in 13th, So yeah, I think he could be a shout. I really like Patika, is it Paqueta for West Ham? He looks really, really solid.
Yeah.
Obviously we have Maddison.
What about like Calvert-Lewin? Everton.
Yeah,
like he got a goal.
He did.
Maybe.
Yeah, he could potentially.
What about Bamford? Yeah, Leeds got a goal as well. Bamford got a
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. I don't think there's nobody really from Southampton. I don't think, and I think they're like Mira. I think they're going to be gone too. Who else? I think. I think Everton might go, and then it will be between Forest, Leeds, and Leicester, which I think is quite hard to call without knowing what Sam's going to do to that Leeds side. I think if he can grab hold of them, then maybe Leicester. I fancy Nottingham just to somehow like squeeze a spot back up there and potentially still stay in the race. So I think maybe Leicester, or if Sam just cannot get Leeds under control, maybe Leeds. So I don't know if that's
I feel like I feel like Everton, Leeds were in the relegation zone last year as well, right? So it just feels like it's coming.
Almost inevitable. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I was just gonna cool, right. So was there any other questions before we shoot off? Johnson, yes, Ian. I really like the Welshie Johnson. He's really good. He could be a shout for Forest as well. Vardy, yeah. I got him in my Sky Manager of the month team the other day and got a goal out of him.
Why
so that
didn't
was nice.
Vardy take the penalty for Leicester?
I don't know. Maybe just because he's getting older now and they know that they can't rely on him to be their main penalty taker, so they're trying to like solidify the role with somebody else.
Yeah.
Because if Vardy's still with Leicester next season, I can't imagine they're going to want him to be like a main, like stay, right? A main player every week because he's just getting older now. So I assume that's all
but
it
Maddison
is.
doesn't take pens, right? So
Yeah,
it's odd.
I don't know. I don't know why that was. I was annoyed as well because he was my Sky team captain. So the fact he missed that was annoying. Ali, when is the team reveal? We've already done it, buddy. You'll have to
wait, Ali, is that really you? Is that the Ali?
The Ali. Oh, I don't know. You'll have to find out there.
Or is that Harry being Ali?
And says great stream, by the way. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we're really, really grateful. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. You can find Mez on her that's below her camera there. So exclusively there, right, Mez, on Twitter?
That's right. Yeah.
And we will try and get a timestamp to you as well as soon as we can so that we can let you know what was chatted about where. And we'll hopefully be around this same time next week, right?
Sounds good.
Cool.
Excellent.
We will catch you then. Bye, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
When